She vanished without a trace from a cruise ship in the middle of the Caribbean. No distress call, no witnesses, just a family waking up to an empty cabin. And a nightmare that still hasn't ended. But as layers of the story peel back, one question remained. Did the crews lie no more than they were telling? Amy Lynn Bradley was 23 years old, vibrant, athletic, and full of life. She had just graduated from Longwood University in Virginia with a degree in physical education and was preparing for a new job. Her family described her as independent, confident, and deeply connected to them, especially her younger brother Brad. In March 1998, Amy joined her family on a celebratory vacation aboard the Royal Caribbean cruise ship Rhapsody of the Seas, departing from Puerto Rico for a Caribbean tour. It was supposed to be a dream getaway. They boarded the ship on March 21st, 1998. The atmosphere was electric. Passengers partying, music echoing through the halls, waiters smiling in polished uniforms. The Bradley family took photos, played games on the deck, and danced at the nightclub on board. Amy, according to her father, seemed relaxed, happy, but just 3 days later, on March 24th, she would vanish from the ship before it docked in Curacao. And what began as a missing persons report turned into one of the most chilling cruise ship mysteries in modern history. On the evening of March 23rd, Amy and her brother Brad attended a party in the ship's nightclub. Photos and videos showed Amy dancing with a member of the ship's band Blue Orchid, a man named Alistair Yellow Douglas. It was casual, friendly. Nothing seemed amiss. Around 1 a.m., Amy and Brad returned to their cabin. Brad went to sleep almost immediately, and Amy sat on the balcony with a cigarette. Their father, Ron Bradley, awoke around 5:30 a.m. and briefly saw Amy still on the balcony. He went back to sleep, but when he woke again at 6 a.m., Amy was gone. Her shoes were left behind, but her cigarettes and lighter were missing. Her ID, room card, and all personal belongings were untouched. No one had heard anything. No alarms were triggered. The family searched every inch of the ship. Ron and Brad sprinted from deck to deck, checking bathrooms, lounges, stairwells. Nothing. Within 45 minutes, the family was begging ship security to make an announcement over the loudspeakers. But the cruise officials refused. According to them, it was too early to alarm passengers. By 7:45 a.m., the ship had docked in Curacao, and still, no one had announced Amy was missing. Only after the Bradleys begged relentlessly did Royal Caribbean alert passengers and initiate a search, more than 5 hours after she vanished. But by then, hundreds had already disembarked. Cruise ship staff conducted what they called a thorough search of public areas, restricted zones, and cabins. They found nothing. The Curacao police were contacted and did a basic shore search, but considered the case outside their jurisdiction. The official theory? Amy fell overboard. But the Bradleys and soon many investigators didn't buy it. Amy was a trained lifeguard, strong swimmer. The ocean was calm that morning. Her shoes, ID, and even her drink were still in the room. She was known to be cautious and had voiced discomfort earlier in the trip about some of the male staff being too friendly. And perhaps most damning, Amy had been photographed and videotaped with cruise staff the night before. One of the last people seen with her, Yellow Douglas, was brought in for questioning. He said she left the club alone, and he hadn't seen her after that. But when asked later in an interview whether he saw her again that night, he replied, "Yeah, I saw her leave with someone else." It was a slip investigators found chilling. Rising mystery. Was Amy trafficked? Shortly after Amy's disappearance, strange sightings began pouring in. 1999, a Canadian tourist in Curacao. A year after Amy vanished, a Canadian woman vacationing in Curacao reported seeing a woman in a restroom and nightclub The woman, shaking, terrified, told her, "My name is Amy Bradley, and I need help." The tourist reported it immediately, but local authorities couldn't locate the woman. 2005, U.S. Navy officer in a brothel. A U.S. Navy petty officer came forward claiming he saw Amy in a brothel in Barbados. He said the woman approached him, told him her name was Amy, and begged for help before being escorted away by two men. At first, officials doubted him until he passed a polygraph test and accurately described Amy's tattoos. This began to shape a horrifying theory. Amy may have been abducted and sold into human trafficking. Photos later emerged on an adult site in 2005 of a woman named Jazz, who bore an eerie resemblance to Amy, right down to the tattoo on her shoulder. FBI agents analyzed the photo. The match was strong but not definitive. Despite this, the investigation never expanded significantly into the Caribbean sex trade. The cruise line's role, omission or obstruction. Amy's parents repeatedly criticized Royal Caribbean's handling of the disappearance. According to their statements, they delayed reporting Amy missing. They refused to lock down the ship in time. They never properly searched all passenger areas. They offered to fly the family home with a confidentiality agreement. That last detail was perhaps the most suspicious. The family refused to sign, but the cruise line's eagerness to end the matter quickly raised red flags. Why didn't they take the family seriously? Why didn't they alert passengers immediately? And why weren't all staff, including entertainment crew, subjected to stricter questioning? Years later, in a civil case, the cruise line was found negligent, but by then, the trail had gone cold. The FBI opened a case and kept it active for years, offering a $25,000 reward that was later increased to $250,000. They issued age progression photos and worked with Interpol, but they struggled to get support from Caribbean authorities or secure surveillance footage from the ship. Royal Caribbean insisted they had turned over all records. The case faded from public memory until 2023, when a documentary titled Vanished. Amy Lynn Bradley aired on streaming platforms, sparking renewed interest. TikTok sleuths, Reddit threads, and journalists revived theories. Some claimed the cruise line knew more than it revealed. Some believed staff were complicit. Others pointed to organized Caribbean trafficking networks that may have used the port to move Amy undetected. Amy's parents, Ron and Ivor Bradley, became relentless advocates for missing persons. They appeared on Oprah, America's Most Wanted, and numerous news programs. They sold their home to fund private investigations, hired specialists, posted reward money, created foundations to help others. But Amy has never been found. In 2010, the Bradleys had her declared legally dead, but they don't believe she's gone. They believe she's still out there, trapped, forgotten, and they believe someone knows exactly what happened on that ship. Thousands of passengers step onto cruise ships every day, trusting that they're safe, protected by the companies and crew that run them. But what happens when something goes wrong? When a daughter disappears without explanation? When a family is met with silence, bureaucracy, and vague apologies? The case of Amy Lynn Bradley is not just a disappearance. It's a warning about what happens in the gaps of jurisdiction, about the unanswered questions of shipboard crimes, about how quickly a vacation can become a nightmare, and the most haunting question of all, did the cruise ship hide the truth about Amy Bradley?